Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Carly P. Riley Show. On today's episode, why was Ryan Salame? You hear it both ways. Why was Ryan Salame sentenced to 7.5 years in prison, which is 6 months more than the maximum sentence recommended by the government? Essentially, the prosecution recommended that he receive just 5 to 7 years in prison, and the judge, Judge Kaplan in this case, gave him 7.5 years. Why did that happen? And that's where he was essentially when FTX collapsed. I give that little caveat because I think Ryan had actually technically resigned from FTX prior to its collapse, but was still there and was still doing things. And in any case, that's a separate story, another story for another day. Now, it's important to note that Ryan did not actually plead guilty, nor was he charged with anything to do with the core fraud that happened at FTX, the misappropriation of customer money. It is sort of widely accepted that Ryan did not know about that misappropriation of customer funds or the core fraud that was going on. What Ryan has pled guilty to, what he did plead guilty to, were two things. One were campaign finance violations, and the second was running an unlicensed money transmission business. And on that first count, the campaign finance violations, that's what people really I hate to say this, but like know him for, or when they think about this whole situation, that's what they think about more with Ryan. Because FTX was clearly interested in swaying policy, crypto policy, but it went beyond that. I think folks know, obviously, that Sam Bankman-Fried himself was an effective altruist and clearly had an agenda with that. You know, he was interested in shaping policy and shaping politics. He tended to give to more left-wing causes. Nishad Singh, somebody else on the team, also became sort of a face of left-wing donations at FTX. And folks, I think, have this impression, or some people have this impression of FTX as really singularly being in the palm of Democratic politics or really being Democratic donors. But the truth is, FTX was also giving a lot of money to Republican candidates. And that's where Ryan Salame came into things. He was really the Republican donor of the bunch. And this is where things probably get dicey, but certainly the government would argue that FTX was giving money to Republican candidates via Ryan Salame, which made him really a straw donor, and he was a part of this whole straw donor scheme. Okay. This all matters because I think actually is the heart of why Judge Kaplan sentenced Ryan as harshly, if you want to put it that way, as strongly as he did. Because Judge Kaplan is clearly very concerned with maintaining trust in American institutions and having the American public, or the broader public, continue to have trust and faith in American institutions, despite the fact that by all the numbers, that faith and trust is declining. So I say this because, for example, in Sam Bankman-Fried's sentencing, Judge Kaplan specifically said, part of my job here is to hand down a sentence that the average person on the street will think is fair. Clearly, Kaplan was sensitive to the fact that this was a very high-profile case, that people had heard about this case. And so he was thinking about and even vocalized that if the many random people, the headlines that were going to be generated off of this, the many people who were going to hear about Sam Bankman-Fried's sentence, they needed to feel like the justice system was working. And I'm sure this was born in part out of the fact that you had a lot of people speculating, saying, talking about the fact that they expected Sam to maybe get special treatment or to be pardoned by Biden, or because he was known to be politically connected, wealthy, influential, etc., that there was going to be a different set of rules for Sam. And Judge Kaplan clearly did not want that to seem like the case or be the case, which was influenced how he sentenced Sam. Judge Kaplan also, when sentencing Sam, was clearly put off by and concerned by Sam's political ambitions. And he also referenced that. Like, you were amassing this wealth because you felt and thought and wanted to influence politics and decision-making in this country in a way that he clearly, Judge Kaplan clearly, finds very cynical and very sinister. Okay, I say all of this because I have heard from somebody who was in the courtroom during Ryan's sentencing, which I was not, but I was there for Sam's. In Ryan's sentencing, Judge Kaplan apparently spoke about Citizens United. Citizens United, folks, I'm sure are probably familiar, a very famous Supreme Court case, very controversial Supreme Court case here in the United States, in which the Supreme Court determined that corporations could give unlimited funds to campaigns. It was basically protected by the First Amendment and like free speech rights. Companies could give as much money as they wanted to campaigns. So Judge Kaplan, apparently not a fan of the Citizens United decision, and referenced it and spoke about it when sentencing Ryan. So I say all this because I think what is pretty clear to me is Judge Kaplan gave this longer than expected sentence to Ryan because he is particularly concerned about and sensitive to issues where he feels like wealthy or well-connected people are trying to manipulate the system, control the system, own the system, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, which he sees as eroding the American public's faith in our institutions. And I guess he's not wrong, right? Clearly, the moneyed interests having a lot of power or sway, or our perception that moneyed interests have a lot of power and sway in this country, does lead to an erosion of trust, or an erosion in the sense that the system is working for us or working for, regular Americans, regular people. And so that really, I believe, is at the core of why Kaplan went harsher here, went stronger here than even the government or the prosecution was asking for. Now, with all that said, I'm very curious to hear what you think. Do you think the sentence was fair? Was it too much? Was it too little? Just right? Let me know in the comments. And if you have been enjoying this content, please do consider subscribing to the channel, liking the video, commenting below. What did I miss? And with that, thank you so much for being here, and I will see you next time.